but they go back home to their dads, and their dads go, "Oh, you've got it so easy. We all use picks and shovels. It's not even mining anymore. You can't call yourself a miner."
Leave Toby out.
Did we leave Toby out?
Exactly, and then there's Toby as well, yeah.
Would that be solar panels within the signs themselves?
Oh, that's where we'll have to ask Andy. He's the one who does the development.
Sorry, How did you drop into it? So you weren't in Highways before?
No, so I was in vehicle graphics. So
okay, all right.
a manufacturer.
So still pretty transferable.
Yeah. So manufacturer vehicle graphics. So I was doing sales within that role.
Okay.
Did that for 14 years.
Yeah.
So I knew a lot of the kind of market that we would approach with Blinc.
Yeah.
So that vehicle graphics side, because of course Chevron's come from vehicle
graphics.
graphics.
Yeah, getting it. Do you say livery or livery?
I say livery, but I think it's livery.
Well, I say livery, but I always feel like I get it wrong.
No, it is livery. I think it is livery. I think it's just with my accent. I can't help it.
Is that what vehicle wrapping is? Livery?
Yeah, livery. So it's what's on the
graphics.
vehicle side of vehicles. It's all livery.
I say plastic wrap. I'm probably really doing it now.
Yeah, do not say plastic wrap. But we used to just say sticky labels. So sticky labels.
Vehicle stickers.
It's just Benji said the other day, he was like, so is that vehicle stickers? And I went, Benji, that's exactly what it is.
Because I didn't know if they were painted on or what. Just a giant sticker.
Yeah.
So he was like, it's just covered in stickers.
Yeah. So that's how I connected with James, because of course James is one of them, one of the founders of Blinc Light, James. His business, Frost Solutions, is from the vehicle graphics side.
I see. So I didn't know. Obviously, I've met him a couple of times, but one time filming, once at your open day, not really a sit down to know loads and loads and loads more about other bits that we had in the fight. Obviously, everything was concentrated on like Blinc at the time.
Yeah.
Okay. So did he? I take it they were like openly recruiting then, or did he
they were
speak
open.
to you and just say, look,
so no,
they
were basically ready to go to market, so they were openly recruiting. I had a meeting with James initially. We just had a bit of a chit chat about, my experiences. He opened up about Blinc and what the future could be for Blinc and where he sees the future. And I'd just seen it as a really exciting opportunity. And I remember going for a walk with my friend straight after the initial chat. And I kept saying, oh, God, I hope they bring us back. I hope they bring us back. Because it just sounded something that I could really, like a challenge, something and get really stuck into, something new, something different. An industry that I'm familiar with, but not in the same sense. And then, the same night, I think I got a phone call saying, right, we want to set you up on a call with Andy, who was another founder, and Toby. And I had about an hour and a half conversation with all three over Teams. And it was just such an easy conversation. It really flowed. And then I think 2 days later, they offered us the position to basically come in and work with them and grow the business. So.
Well, we liked it when we started conversations around potentially working together, because from our point of view, the industry is obviously great to us and kind to us, but a lot of it's static and a lot of it's grey, like literally just by definition it has to be or whatever. So like, okay, I mean, obviously from being here, you see how much my director loves LEDs and colour and brightness and bits and pieces like that. So like, okay, in terms of content then this might be
could be cool.
This might be a bit sexy by highway standards, and then obviously like the video stuff came up.
No, it's really good, the videos.
Like I say, once we got involved, I thought, it seems like a bit of a no-brainer. But when you have your conversations with people, generally like first up, do they sit there and think, no-brainer for us, we have to have it, or have you found a few challenges so far? No
challenges. So everybody I've met and sat in front of, their eyes have lit up, literally lit up, no pun intended. And they see really the benefit of the product straight away, so the safety element of what we're providing. It's just that change and something new, and getting someone to jump first is what we need, and edit that out. Wrong thing to say.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It can go.
As far as everyone knows, we can know.
Safe.
I think it's okay to be honest about it. Yes, that's how everything starts. Really.
Yeah.
I think that's it. I mean,
we can say we're excited about. We've launched our first few free trials very recently.
Yeah.
Excited to invite more people in. We're still in that early stage. We need adoption, but it's.
Do you think just being honest and
I
open
think so,
about
yeah.
it?
As long as we're doing it in an optimistic way, and
just being
you have already, like, I know you've already got like interest and intrigue. I mean, I think it's unusual for something that's pretty new to have its first customers, dare I say, to be like your green flags, your Fords, like big businesses, like showing an interest straight away. So there's obviously something there that immediately appeals to big organisations that think, okay, as a safety notch, let's explore. Like that's got to be a big positive.
Definitely, and I think we initially went to market in 2019, so it's been a long time in development. When we went to market, we realised quite quickly that the product that we were marketing wasn't the right product. Due to legislations, there were certain elements of what we were doing didn't fit the current legislations in the UK. So the product was then pulled from the market, and that's when we started working with Ford and working directly with them over the last 5 years. And we went to the commercial vehicle show in March, before my time, as I mentioned, only started in August. But went to the commercial vehicle show, and the interest at that show was unbelievable. And that was April last year. And I think it took till around mid-year to say, right, how do we go to market? So that's why I was brought in, to say, right, where do we go? Who do we speak to? What are the right channels? So that's what I've been doing the last 6-7 months, is really looking at the market.
I didn't know that product got taken away because of, I guess, what you went to market and found out, okay, there were a few
the light
gaps in what we're doing. We need to redevelop and go again.
It was more about the light itself.
Okay.
So when we originally went to market, if you look at chevrons today, you've got, say, the standard yellow and red chevron. When we initially went to market, we're illuminating the yellow and the red.
Okay.
If you look at the current regulations, so the road lighting regulations within the UK market, you can only have red, which is illuminated. And it's only recently laws have been changed, regulations have been changed, that for roadside recovery vehicles that you can actually have that red light flashing.
Okay.
So that's all just happened within the last year. But at the time when we first went, we were illuminating everything. So it wasn't road legal in a sense.
Whereas now you have no issue.
Yeah, because when we worked with Ford, that's when we found all this out. So when we worked with Ford, we worked with their legal teams. We're really come on.
We just went Morse code for a bit.
Yeah.
Can I ask you, not to get into things like your pricing, but
happy
as
to
a
share.
bit of a blessing to that person thinking, oh God, we've been illuminating everything.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is a really cheeky question, so feel free
to.
No,
go for it. I know what you're going to ask.
Nudge off.
Yeah.
If you then don't have to illuminate yellow, you get cheaper.
Yeah.
Okay, right, okay.
So when we're first,
I didn't want to say it, you'd be like,
no,
don't say it.
You're right. So again, when we initially went to market, the price was much higher than what it is today.
Okay.
So you're probably looking 2 to 3 times more expensive.
Yeah, okay.
Like
I say, it made sense in my head, and then I thought to say it out loud might be like.
But it's all these things we learned.
We
learned through the development. We learned this, and that's when we adapted the changes to say, right, well, not only are we then changing what we're doing, which fits with the road lighting regulations, but also we can provide our product at a cheaper cost.
In your sort of 7-8 months now, is the regulations thing something that a lot of people bring up, or do you find our industry? Because obviously our industry is like, I think any person in any business in our industry, if you ask them, would say safety first, safety first, safety first, safety first. Do you find that everyone is well aware that those regulations are sat? Because for example, we're not boots on the ground, obviously, with what we do. I'll be the first to say that, but I didn't know that, for example.
No, it's been that's the right word, like a steep learning curve. for me, so I've had to learn all this as well over the last month, but everyone I'm speaking to are fully aware of all the regulations.
Oh, okay, all right, that's a bit of a win then.
With our products, we don't just fall in one set of regulations because of what we are and what we do.
Okay.
So you sit in the road lighting regulations, we've also got Chapter 8 recommendations, we've also got the traffic signal regulations, so if you illuminate highways, maintenance, for example, on the back of the vehicle, that sits under the traffic signs regulation and not road lighting regulations.
Okay.
So there's so much that you've got to kind of look at depending on the design of the product that we're looking for. So not just the chevrons that we do, but the other features we do as well.
Yeah, okay.
Well, so the area that we're operating in is so to do with the safety of roadside workers, rather than it just being regulation that's difficult to understand why those laws have been brought in. You know, the reason it got changed a year and a little bit ago when they enabled the red flashing light is direct response to roadside workers being killed, to AA vehicles being hit. They just were the ones who reported it, but I'm sure other people have had vehicles hit. We all learn from driving, you know, the rules around if you stop in the hard shoulder of a motorway, you know, be very careful, get away from the vehicle because you're so vulnerable, and there's workers whose entire working life is on the side of roads with cars going past 70 miles an hour and stuff. So the idea behind the red flashing light is that drivers approaching associate that with an incident, with safety stuff. So it's not a huge part of our product. It's about it being seen more in advance before you need to shine your headlights at it, which gives you early warning, which is great. But the second part is by flashing red light, you just bring up this association with there's an incident, I need to do something, I might need to switch lane, and you put people in that frame of mind, all about, you know, making that guy who's actually there by the vehicle or woman working on the roadside just a lot safer.
It's given that longer reaction time.
And given longer reaction time.
Exactly what you're saying there. It's that higher visibility, the longer reaction time.
Yeah. Particularly if it's low light or raining or something, and there's other lights and there's lights on signs, and if you're approaching at 80 miles an hour, you really don't have much time. So anything that can just give you an early warning that there's a stationary vehicle relative to your 80 miles an hour, 70 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Well, I've said to you before, haven't I? Probably 1,000 times. Like when we did some filming and Andy first showed me, I thought, that's cool.
Yeah.
Which we don't have a fleet of operatives that go out. So my sort of childish thought was, that's cool. When we actually then went out to film on that lane that's got the zero light, immediately, because it was parked next to our production van, and we've got Chapter 8 on that, we're Chapter 8 compliant. But as Andy and James drove down that lane to join us to film, it's like a really stark smack in the face then. They're like, okay, someone would only know we're there once they get
it's a certain distance,
2 meters away or 3 meters away or whatever it may be. And I've said to you before, like, it's not my job to sit here and like try and amp up your product, but immediately from that job, straight away I thought, okay, it's not about being cool. You know, like straight away I thought, okay, someone's now going to know we're on this dark lane if they turn in.
And one of the key features that I've been asked about loads is, what about the retroreflective properties? Like, does it still have retroreflective properties? So when ours is illuminate, and it does, we use materials which are Chapter 8 compliant in the UK.
And our product goes underneath the reflective shield. The chevron that people are used to is still the same chevron. It's just that we've put something underneath it that you can light it up.
Yeah.
And everything's custom, isn't it? Like, obviously because you spent some time with it, now we're talking about getting it on our van, but
no, we do any design. So you can do the full back end of a van, you can do only part of the van. So if you want just a small little section down on the rear, you can do that. If you want to do the full overview of the van, of course, that's when you start looking at the costs and things like that. Yeah. But every design we do will all depend on the fleet manager and what they want. So, yeah.
The people that you end up sat talking to, they kind of love it and their eyes light up. Do you find any pushback at all? My experience, I think I've told you this before as well, going 10, 11 years ago, there was a little bit of a resistance to like digital, which obviously we are 100% digital, a little bit of resistance to digital. And it feels like there's kind of like a tipping point where, for example, the adoption of social media was a big one for us. people used to think it was a bit of a gimmick, not for business, from some of the direct conversations I'd had, and now you probably can't find a company without a social media page, like at least one. Do you get pushback? Because I mean, I'm guessing a little bit here. We've obviously spoke, but I'm guessing a little bit. There will be some, because I think people are just a bit naturally resistant to change because it's either scary or whatever that may be. I mean, I know you've been in a few weeks now, but like, what have you found that? Have you found that people raise points out of fear of change in general?
It seems that, I guess we think that what we've got is something that we can see being on every vehicle with chapter 8 chevrons, because it makes every one of those vehicles a lot safer. We can also see a situation where it's on most vehicles, and if you're putting chevrons on the back of your vehicle, you look at everyone else, you think, we've got to do that, it's so much safer. And if you go back to where we are now, when it's the first stages of this technology, and you're saying to somebody, why don't you do this? They're thinking, well, I haven't seen it anywhere else, so I'm not following everyone. You're asking me to actually be a leader here. It's a new technology, so it's a load of work. I need to get my head around how this works. I then need to get the decision makers in my organisation, going back to that corporate question you were asking earlier, and lots of the companies we're dealing with are much larger. So for the person we're dealing with who thinks it's a good idea to go through the approval process to persuade all these people, they might be a company that is very fortunate that they haven't had an accident with a roadside worker. They might say, we haven't had a van smashed into, we haven't had anyone lose their life, so why do we need to go through this effort and spend money to put these things on when it's a preemptive thing? If they're a company that has had an incident, they might be more receptive to it, but that's why it's difficult at this stage. Once we've broken further into the market, and for instance, say that we're on a whole recovery fleet, then it's a very different situation, because for the competitors of that recovery fleet, their drivers might be turning around to their employers saying, all of their recovery vehicles have got these lights on, so their drivers are all safer. We're working here and it feels like you've not bothered to go through that process or don't want to spend the money to make us that bit safer. Maybe we'll go and drive for that other company. So things will change a lot, but like with any brand new technology, there's fear, but probably mostly it's just the effort and the cost and who wants it. What's the incentive to be first?
It's like, I think we went over an article, didn't we, at one point about like the cost of a life, essentially.
Yeah, we did.
I'm with you, I guess, if you've never been put in that scenario where you're thinking, oh God, someone's been seriously injured or worse here. I guess it's prevention rather than cure, isn't it? That you're looking at, like, how can this be prevented? But our industry is really good for stuff like that, from my experience. Like, people that are constantly looking for ways to keep people safe. I mean, there's a big road worker abuse movement that's kind of hit over the last few years. Obviously, you're not there as such, but it's the same sort of thing, isn't it? Like, thinking about the people that are actually doing the work, boots on the ground, and making sure that they get home. There's a big National Highways campaign a few years ago.
No, there's a few at the moment.
Signs by the roadside that was like, my dad works here, or something like that. Like, similar sort of thing that got adopted in terms of like making people aware that the people on these sites are vulnerable. There's
something now, and I think it's called either Zero Vision or Vision Zero, and it's something the government overall is looking at, but it's global. It's not just here in the UK, it's across everywhere, where what they're wanting to do is to reduce fatalities to zero on any roads. Yeah. And for that to happen, there has to be adaptation of new technologies. In my opinion, it might only be my opinion. I think they've set the
conditions nicely in that they, like you said, they have reacted. They've changed the regulations. They've legislated so that you can have a red flashing light on the back of cars. So there isn't really much technology out there for how to do that at the moment. There's people who have the beacon going around. The AA have come up with a way of putting a light bar on that shines light out backwards. That's one thing that they've done. But everyone else who chooses to react to this new legislation to make their vehicles safer needs to find a way to have a red flashing light out back. So our solution is one way of doing that. I guess one of the things that differentiates us from what the AA have done, for instance, with their light bar, is that glare is quite a big factor. And if you just have a lamp facing out backwards, then it can cause glare. So people approaching can have temporary blind spots or miss other things because of that.
There's even been discussions around epilepsy as well. So how the light bars are so intense that it can actually trigger an epileptic
I've had it with
fit as
emergency
well.
vehicles sometimes, ambulances, or the blue lights. They're stark, and I know they have to be stark, but it is a thing. As I'm driving in my rear view or whatever, I think, oh, that's bright.
No, but
it's really important, particularly if it's wet weather. It's really important. And again, that's just something that we factored into the
technology.
The technology we use is not having glare, so it's very visible, but in a matte way.
Well, I think that was something, when I said to you before, like I came down and thought, that's cool.
Yeah.
But I never thought, oh, that's bright, which in its own way might sound like a negative, but obviously it's not, because the safety benefit of that is then you're not going to starkly blind anyone in a moment. But
you know what it's like when you're driving down the highway and you see a red flashing light, your eyes kind of go a bit.
There was news that we ended up on the website fairly recently about because LED technology is getting better and more people are driving larger vehicles, like the level of headlamps and the brightness of headlamps, obviously they're there for inverted commas safety to see at night, but actually to other drivers, because the capability of it's getting better and better, it's actually making things more dangerous for things coming the other way, because they're too good, too bright, too stark. So I guess the anti-glare thing for you,
it's one of our
means
biggest selling points.
You're not a safety business with safety related products that actually might endanger people by
other
being
issues.
By being too stark. I always found that quite interesting.
Yeah, the other thing that so if you go on the idea that you want to put a red flashing light at the back of your vehicle, because now they're regulated to do so and it's encouraged because it makes your vehicle safer and the person who's working in it, then if you have a spotlight like that, then you can see a red flashing light coming off. But with our solution, one of the things it does is it shows you the shape of the back of the van. So you're not just seeing a red flashing light, you're seeing this thing flashing in the shape of the back of a van. So you're much quicker to understand, okay, this is a van, it's that kind of size, so it's going to be sticking out like this. There might be somebody within a metre of it, so this is the kind of berth I need to give it.
I guess if someone's within a metre of it, that's where PPE tech comes in as well.
Exactly.
Because I guess it's, again, even from the stuff we've filmed with you in the past, it's easy, dare I say, to get focused on the PPE and the signs of the other products.
We're looking at development of the products within the portfolio. So they're currently in development at the moment, so I haven't gone to market with them, but we're looking at high-vis vests, for instance, that use the same Blinc Light technology. The triangles that you put out if you have an accident or you're stuck. Looking at illuminating that with our technology, but we're currently in development with them right now, so hopefully we'll see something come to market around that in the coming months.
Your LinkedIn's always an interesting watch, because...
Well, mine?
No,
the businesses.
Well, I'm sure it is, I'm not being offensive, but the company page, because there's always something that you're trialing or applying it to. There's always something.
Well, that's what
I'm seeing.
Been trying to do.
We work together. I've seen it on your LinkedIn page before anyone even tells me something's going on. I think, oh, that's cool. Let's have a chat about that then.
But that's what we thought. We could maybe use like social platforms to really showcase some of our ideas that we've had, that the technology can be used for, all in is kind of the safety aspect. So one of the other ones we've looked at is fire exit signs. So very small strip of our technology with fire exit sign on, and then we've even looked at having them wired to the fire brake glass. Is that right? Is that what you call them? Brake glass? Fire, the fire exit brake glass things. Edit that out. And it shows you, and basically the arrows along there show you which way to go to leave the building. So you think, for hotels or for one of the other things we've looked at is railway stations, that sort of thing. So it's all around, protecting people. But again, these are all things that are in discussion. It's what, our founders are currently creating and developing. So hopefully in the next...
it's just kind of like there was some stage, whenever it was, that reflective material came in and fluorescent material, and that's obviously taken over the world of safety for good reason. And hopefully this is just a development to that. At some stage will be a milestone where, do you remember when we brought in safety material and high-vis and it made everyone safer because you shine a light at them, you can see them really clearly? Then do you remember when we brought in a way of lighting that up so you didn't need your own active light source to see it? You know, it was showing itself to you. You know, and then who knows what the next development is.
It's funny though, because going back to what you were saying before, I would put money, hopefully no one digs me on this, but I would put money that when someone said, oh, you got to put all this reflective stuff on your vehicles now, back in the day, there probably would have been people that go, well, why? We've never had any accidents or fatalities. Like, I'm sure that would have been.
Exactly. Somebody turns up and says, do you want to buy all these high-vis jackets for all your builder works on the building site? And they might say, we've never had an accident here. Our builders, you know, the guys on this site, they know what they're doing, everyone's safe, you know. Why do we need to spend money and have the hassle of wearing these ridiculous jackets? You know, now obviously we do it and it makes a hell of a lot of sense because we see, I guess, the macro trend. Even if it saves one person's life in the UK, that's probably worth it.
I would put money that there would have been conversations back in the day that were like, so I bought my vehicle, you now want me to pay to put reflective stickers, or
stickers on the back.
I bet that would have been I bet that would have been a thing somewhere.
Resistance to change is whatever you're.
I think it's a natural human reaction, isn't it? That we've had it change
over the years. We've had it a lot over the years because obviously we're in a different realm to you, but even like digital marketing to some wasn't the traditional way. So you get people like, we're just not sure, and you know, in some way now.
Yeah, I'm reading a book about coal miners at the moment. I was listening to it in the car on the way up, and it talks about an interesting development when they mechanized everything. So in the sort of 70s, 80s, the guys who worked in coal mines still had an unbelievably brutal working life compared to almost any other worker. But they go back home to their dads and their dads go, oh, you've got it so easy. We all use picks and shovels. It's not even mining anymore. You can't call yourself a miner.
Back in mining, sort of. That never goes away, does it? My granddad was a miner, actually. No, he mentioned that.
Yeah, my uncle was.
Was he a proper miner with a pick and shovel, or did he have the easy way?
Trying to work it out, not sure. My dad was born in 1960, so he probably would have been a miner in, I don't know, somewhere between the 50s and 70s or something like that. So he might have just got away with being a
I think my uncle was definitely a pickaxe. I think he's in his 80s now, so he was definitely the pickaxe.
Yeah, quite possibly. Yeah. It is funny though, isn't it? Like, just how that changes and then like the new stuff comes in. There's a marketeer that I'm a big fan of and I listen to his stuff. And he was saying like at one point, and he had it on a presentation and it was leaflets being pushed through people's doors back in the day for electricity to the home. Like they had to advertise and try and get people to adopt having it in their house. And
now,
you know, some of the other spiel on the same podcast without going into it, like the pushback and some of the types of pushback and why, like they didn't trust it would compost, they didn't trust
live without it now.
And I know that's quite an extreme example, but it just goes to show like even some of the most widely adopted things that you don't even probably think about as a product, like just electric to your home, like it is. And at one point that was the new thing that people weren't sure about.
I guess it's like any trend, because you could say to somebody, you may not need electricity right now, but why don't you think about what the world's going to look like in 20 years time and the trends. And you know, hopefully it's the same with us in that somebody could say, why does our company need this right now? And you go, well, look at the trend. You know, this is a technology that just makes it safer for anyone who has reflective paneling on their vehicles or on their person. You know, what is the direction of travel we're looking in?
I think the why now thing, like the prevention over cure, is sort of interesting because again, like we work with people that have the same sort of approach to road surfacing. So like beat it before it's knackered, basically. Ironwork seating, work with a company that again is about putting something in that's, you know, long term that prevents the degradation rather than fixes the degradation once it's happened. I think it pops up more often than
I think so, particularly with
people have got their eyes on that, like
particularly with safety
before it happens.
Particularly with safety, you know, if you, I guess it's difficult because it's difficult with prevention in general. It's difficult with a principle in whether it's safety or not. It's difficult with prevention because you've got to do things right now, and if it goes really well, it will never happen. And therefore, when you think about measuring ROI and stuff, it's difficult to put that in when you think, well, it never happened. But it might have happened, but we don't know whether it would have happened.
Yeah,
that's the difficult thing with anything that's prevention. And that's certainly the space that we're operating in,
I think if you're not looking at, like, say, £1 spent to save £1.50, you're never going to be able to show that, are you? And we have a similar thing in a different way as well. Like, but that's not the point of what you're doing, is it? You're setting up. I guess it's like insurance, isn't it? Like you take your car insurance. If you got a crash that year, well, okay. But I was covered in the most comprehensive way possible.
Yeah.
Had I come a cropper in, something that was or wasn't even my fault. I'm not saying you're an insurance company, but similar principle of we need to be set for if it happens.
Yeah, and it's a prevention. It is
exactly. I think it's that, but it's also like you think about the advert for working at WeWork, where come and work here and you'll also get a slide and a ping pong table and free coffees on tap or whatever it is. And what our technology enables people who use it or companies that use it is to say to prospective workers, come work for us, because as well as all the other things other companies do, we put Blinc Lights on the back of our vehicles, so you're going to be that much safer and that much more visible. There's no wooden slide, but hopefully there's marginally more likely to go home alive at the end of the day.
We spoke about a slide here, Honestly, we did. But yeah, in the end, it would have had to have been too steep, and then
fireman's pole.
And then
I was just thinking fireman's pole.
Yeah, but Tom, our enthusiastic camera,
wasn't happy with that.
No, he would have been too enthusiastic on that pole.
Right,
I think we had a bad accident. So we had to avoid
they are a bit more dangerous,
we had to
I guess.
Avoid it to keep Tom from jumping off the mezzanine. So anyway, Tom aside. When you said before, like, why now? Why would someone get this now? If someone said, okay, we've never had a roadworker struck, we've never had a vehicle struck, why should I? What would you say to that? What would you say? This is the reason why I think you should still implement this tech.
I think today there is fatalities on the road due to roadside worker visibility, and I think what our product brings is that higher visibility. It's part of what we're talking about every day. We've mentioned about the fog, the wet weather. Unfortunately, we live in the UK. We don't get a lot of sunshine.
I was just going to say, we don't live in the best climate for visibility at night for quite a few months.
Exactly. And I think, the more research that you do, some of the, harrowing stories that we've read is, it's really sad that someone can go to work one day to help someone else on the side of the road and they don't come home. And I think what our product does is hopefully prevent some of these accidents from happening.
Like you say,
website, we see that these things happen.
Yeah.
It's like you say, prevention's better than the cure. Like, there's no better time to make your vehicles and your roadside workers safer than now. Delaying it 6 months is just another 6 months where your vehicles and your roadside workers could be a little bit safer. Also, on the more practical side, we're still, like we say, in the early stage where we're testing with our first few clients. We've got the product out there. So in terms of people jumping on it now, it's the cheapest it's ever going to be. It's going to be the easiest. We're working with people to put it on because we want these testers. We're not yet at the stage where it's sort of like, right, you choose what you want and we'll just snap, we'll send the order over. It's very much a collaborative thing. So it's a good time.
We're still in development, in a sense.
Still in development.
We are still in development. This is why we are offering trials, to anybody really who, want to work with us. And it's more for them to see firsthand how our product works, because you can watch videos online, you can talk with us over the phone, but to actually see that product out on the road on a night time is very different, and you see the impact of what our product brings.
We're giving people the opportunity, like with any new technology, we're giving them the opportunity to, in a very visible way, be a leader. be those organisations who are the first to have this. You stand out a mile out, particularly relative to your competitors. If you're a plant company and your plant's got all of this, you can then immediately say the plant we're hiring out is safer than what our competitors are doing. It's more visible. So there's a number of reasons to take that plunge, I guess, and be the first.
Like I said, one thing that's come up a lot over my time here, like competitive advantage is usually appealing, isn't it? Usually appealing to most.
100%. And as of today, there's not a product in the market like our Blinc Light technology. So we are first to market with these designs.
We're registered. We've got the patent in the US, the patent in the UK and the EU is about to come through. And we're sort of the option to go for.
Yeah, agreed. And I think, a lot of what I've been doing the last month is I've been working with some of the associations. So I've been working with ARTSM, REMA, also TMCA. And the idea is to work with these associations to build our knowledge. So, I want to learn, I want to understand the traffic management sector. I want to know about products that are coming, new developments. How do we improve safety? How do we improve safety on UK roads? And working with these associations, I feel like it's working with some of the leaders within this industry and gaining that understanding of what's needed.
Should we talk about your team? Because it strikes me that you are 7 or 8 months in.
Yep.
You're a few weeks in.
Yeah.
How many more people are there? Who are they? What are their roles? What do they bring? How? Because I've been quite taken with, since we first stumbled across who you are, quite a few.
The story.
Yeah, but new faces, new people. Like there is already a growing presence of you, the company, the people.
Yeah.
I've met both of you in the last few weeks. You at your open day in January, was it?
Yeah, we had spoke beforehand.
You didn't get blessed with the weather that day either, did you?
No, it was horrific weather.
It's good for a demo day.
Do you know what it is? I was
bright daylight is what we don't need.
I was so surprised how many people actually turned up because it was a busy event and the weather was horrific. And I thought, but no, it went well.
It's funny you say that about good day for a demo. Going back to video, don't keep banging on that we made a video for you, but Andy had said we're going to go to this pitch black lane. That for us is like the antithesis of good video because no light is really like, black eventually, if you're trying to lift it, it'll go grainy and like, oh God, obviously to us, like there's so much pride in the production value and this, that and the other. We just started working together. You want to make a good first bit? They're like, no, the darker the better. And I'm thinking it's not the darker the better. Obviously, the concept evolved, and I'm like, okay, I get the darker the better. But just for a bit, I was thinking, they're going to hate us. They're going to hate us because they're going to look.
The video's going to be terrible. You're not going to see anything.
It's a battle we always have. Like, if we have a shoot, is there street light? Because the camera won't emit any, just so you know. But it kind of bucked every trend of a typical shoot that we need some sort of light. But the darker it was, the sort of happier they got. Just like that. I felt like I had to keep saying that as a caveat. Just remember when you see it might not be the best production value of everything because there is no light. You're like, don't worry, that's what we want. It will be fine.
Well, it certainly ties into one of the benefits that we've got relative to just many other businesses, that it's an extremely visual product. So it just means that as soon as anyone who knows anything about this space sees a 2-second clip or even just an image of a lit up vehicle, they just sort of get the concept immediately.
I went off sideways then.
No, you mentioned about the team.
Team. Yeah, so that's my fault because I'm a waffler at times.
No, we've got it. Team, different dynamics.
It's disruptive. Well, the product that we're doing is disruptive, and the team is very diverse, which helps with having a disruptive product.
Yeah.
I've joined with very little experience of this industry or none, but I've done business-to-business sales before, and I've also worked in a startup environment, and I've also been in the military, which helps bring some of the order. Hopefully, the company will need to grow. Jenny's actually got the most experience of the industry, having been a salesperson in this for sort of 15 years. Toby, sorry,
go on.
I was going to say, then we've got the two guys who set up the company. Andy's who's got all this experience of doing events and structures and saw the opportunity. He kind of invented the product.
He's got that creative mind, hasn't he? He's got that real creative mind about him.
You were telling me about himself when we met, and I couldn't believe. I imagine his brain's like a web browser with a lot of tabs open.
You need to meet James as well, because James is very much like that as well.
He seemed quite in control, and I thought, I'm not quite sure how. I'm a bit more. I need a. I can't let me think on the go. I can barely even speak if I've got two thoughts. But yeah, I couldn't believe how much he was kind of doing.
And I think,
to be honest, it was quite impressive.
It is impressive. It's really impressive. And what I wouldn't like to be in the room with just two of them talking. Imagine where that could lead.
It's very sweet. They're childhood friends.
Yeah, they are.
They were 1 year apart during school.
Yeah, they went to
and
school
James
together.
went down this route of setting up Frost Solutions and wrapping vehicles and doing all the graphics of vehicles and other types of graphics. And Andy went down his events route as well as a load of other things.
Yeah.
Interesting tabs he's got open in his brain, including a construction company and all sorts. And Andy kind of came up with the idea for Blinc Light, and James saw the potential in vehicles, and together they built the company.
Childhood, so it's almost like family business feel without the family because they've been mates for so long.
Yeah, and you can see the dynamics between them as well. But I think the good thing about our small team, so there is just us. It is a very small team at the moment. Hopefully we can grow together. But I think what you see within our team now is everyone's got so many different skills, and to bring everyone's skill set together really makes it work.
Wait, did you leave Toby out?
Did we leave Toby out?
Exactly, and then it was Toby as well, yeah. So Toby joined the business probably.
You need to
I just thought Toby said to me that led me to a thought, and I thought, oh, he didn't get Toby.
So he joined a year ago, and he's got also experience from the event space, but actually he set up a load of businesses. His first business was probably when he was age 11 or something, and he's brought a very diverse range of skills that come from setting up some really successful businesses. And actually, because he's come from a different world, he's lived in Hong Kong for the last 15 years, I think. He's kind of brought to those guys just another different perspective and an enormous amount of energy. And then Jenny and I are the kind of two people on the ground, really. Jenny's been for however long, and I've just recently joined the effort to enact these things on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. When we met at your open day, Toby had said to me, like, you are, in terms of like because you mentioned like a small team, but he said to me in terms of like capability, you are capable of thousands of units, essentially thousands of kits to be fitted, say within a 12-month period. Like, it's not a small operation, is it? Even if it's a
so
lean
it's a small.
team.
If you speak about the team, it's a lean team. But on the operations side, we've got the capabilities, as you said, to be fitting thousands of these kits, and that's what we want. That's where we want to be.
And that's the way the machine's built. It'll be better when we get to that stage, because the way the supply chain works, everything works better at volume. All the margins come down, everything is made for pallets and pallets of it, exactly.
Yeah, everything's reduced, so it helps everybody, not just us, but also our customer.
Speaking of your customer, I only ask this because we've spoken about our vehicle now. Is there a lot of pain or upheaval if I've got a fleet of, I don't know, let's just say 10 vehicles or 30 vehicles, to switch from the retro reflective stuff that's already fitted for the Blinc tech? Is there a pain point there?
No, because that retro reflective material still remains. So where you get that from your supplier, that wouldn't change.
Okay.
What we actually supply is a panel which sits underneath that retro reflective material.
Okay.
So really, what we call them is the naked kit.
Okay.
So you can imagine it's like a metallized sheet, very thin. It's less than a mil thick. Metallized sheet that then the vinyl lens sits on top of that metallized sheet. So ideally, our business, what we want to supply is the naked kits.
Okay.
to a company who would then fit the vinyl on top.
Okay.
Yeah, so for people who've got their person they go to or the company they go to get their vehicle wrapped, where they buy their chevrons from, that all stays the same. It's just that before you put the chevrons on, you just put Arcane underneath, and it's less than 1 millimeter thick, so it doesn't change the fit of anything. It just slips under there. It gets wired in at the same time you wire in your flashing beacon or whatever else needs wiring. It's all very simply done.
Okay. Has that ever been raised before?
What, the question?
I'm not trying to sound some sort of question pioneer.
No,
I was just thinking about it, like, would we be out of action for a bit? Is what I was.
No, that's something I get asked all the time, because I think what people see visually is that it's they just see the chevron. They don't realise what the technology is behind it, or how it works, or how it's fitted, or so it's a lot of the questions I get. So straight away, the response I get from people is, well, how does it work? What is it? And people don't realise that it is actually the retroreflective material. It's still the same. It's still that same material. Just we sit as that underlay underneath.
Yeah, okay, like an enhanced feature.
Exactly that. I love that.
The way
enhanced
we picture it is kind of
you can have that.
The tip box on the list. You know, do you want a flashing beacon? Do you want a this? You know, do you want to add a blink light to this? That's the idea. It's just another feature to go that enhances the safety of the vehicle.
Yeah, and it's a simple switch, so it's wired in through the side of the vehicle. It's a simple switch, at the driver's cab. So you know, our customer can specify on how they want that to work, where they want it wired in. Do they want it on the bottom? Do they want it on the top? Do they want it behind them? It's entirely up to the customer and what they want to do.
Yeah, okay. So it's like, again, I keep talking about our vehicle because mine's on it now, obviously, but we just have a switch, put the beacon on, you can do the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have to get out and do anything back.
Nope. Straight from the driver's cab.
Cool. Not exactly new year, but sort of new year. What does the short term look like for you? Let's just say 2025 goals, and then is there the sort of wider picture just for how many vehicles have opportunities to have the tech?
Yeah.
What's the sort of short and long term ideal for you folks at the minute? Like, where do you see things going?
So at the minute, we're really excited to be working with the customers who've already come on board with our free installations. They're currently out on the road now, so we're just waiting to gather their feedback, because that's all very new. So it'll be exciting to see what their thoughts are of our product, but also what is going to happen going forward. So, you know, hopefully we'll have more customers adopt our technology, give it a try firsthand, you know, see how it goes, and then hopefully the world is our oyster after that.
Yes, there's over 200,000 vehicles in the UK with chevrons on the back, and our technology can make every single one of those vehicles a lot safer.
That's a big number, isn't it?
That was a good answer. That's very good answer.
That is a big number, because it's not just highways maintenance vehicles, is it? I guess once, say, traffic management's been deployed, thinking about utilities.
Well, look, it's not just
vehicles.
Yeah, it's not just vehicles. So we're currently working on projects for barriers, so barrier systems that are out in the roads at the moment. So they have sort of the red and white chevrons in a sense across the barriers. We're looking at potentially using our technology there.
The TM barriers that might, for like pedestrians and re-diverts.
Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah, so it's a topic that's quite close to home, because in July last year I broke my collarbone when I was cycling, when I went into a barrier that was across the road. It had reflective material on it, but the light I've got on my bike wasn't enough to light up the barrier to give me enough warning that it was there across the road. Whereas if the barrier had a blink light on it and it had been giving off light, then my puny bike light wouldn't have made a difference. I would have seen it coming and not broken my collarbone when I slammed into it.
So that marketing for that particular product is your bruises.
Yeah.
X-rays.
My X-ray,
broken, collarbone.
Yeah.
No offense, not the prettiest.
Yeah.
But even using like solar power, so we've done a lot of tests and we're in development on that as well. So how we use solar power with our technology, so it doesn't need to be wired in. which can help benefit the traffic signs, for instance. So the 6-ton directional arrows, that's another solution we're looking at. So could we illuminate them on the back of an IPV, for instance?
That would be interesting, because probably the biggest shift, obviously, we see a lot of news and content kind of doing what we do. That shift towards reducing carbon, environment, sustainability,
which is a big topic for everybody,
has only grown. Probably the biggest, I say boom as if it's a trend, it's not, but like the biggest booming topic over the last few years
is sustainability,
for
100%.
Sure.
So bringing
more
in that
comes across our desk with that at the centre of it, probably alongside things like social value, to be honest. As
of course.
Looking to make different types of impact. But 100%, that would be quite interesting. So would that be solar panels within the signs themselves?
Oh, that's where we'll have to ask Andy. He's the one who does the development.
Sorry,
Have you ever seen it when you have, the simplest solution is, you ever seen it when you have Christmas tree lights and you just have a set of those that may stay up all year, or in the garden, they could just have a little solar panel. It goes in the ground next to them. So a really simple option would just be as a little solar panel on the edge of it or something like that. Obviously, like further down the line solution would be something you don't even see. A bit like the new Garmin watches, where the watch face itself is a solar panel, so you can charge the watch to a certain extent just by having the watch out. I'm into sports watches.
I'm just like, it works. It's what it works. It's all that matters.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. In terms of, we ask everyone because it's the name of the podcast, but if I said to you, what does the extra mile mean to you, or what does going the extra mile mean to you? How would you answer that? What does that mean to you if I said, really go the extra mile with this one?
To me, it means excellence, going beyond expectations. It means doing things differently, which is the very nature of a startup and the team that's been put together for this startup, because you're taking an industry and you're trying to get people to do something differently, to be disruptive, and we're trying to get people who are the safety managers of fleets to go the extra mile by adopting a new technology that makes it safer, and the same thing as we're all trying to do in our jobs, go the extra mile, be excellent, do something a bit different.
I think Benji answered that perfectly. I think our technology is definitely disruptive, and going that extra mile to bring that technology into fleets, within this area, whether it's traffic management or waste management or plant hire. I think, customers need to go that extra mile to protect their workforce.
I guess it's sort of, normally I say nothing now, we just finished, but I guess you've got that little knock-on of going back to prevention over cure, and maybe someone doesn't need something right now because there's been a crisis. But I guess you sort of set people up for their own, go the extra mile for their own people, actually, don't you?
Definitely.
The
because they have to go the extra mile, they're going the extra mile to protect their workers.
Interesting. All right, cool. And,
happy?
Yeah, great.
I'll do.
Well done, Benji.
Well,
we're happy with that.